Thank you for listening to this PodcastOne production. Available on Apple Podcasts and PodcastOne.
Let's give it up for Geico for supporting the Steve Austin Show for all these years. In just 15 minutes, you could save 15% or more on car insurance. Geico has been offering great rates and great service for over 75 years. And anytime you need help, you can speak to one of their trained specialists 24/7. Go to geico.com and start saving cash. Extra money in your pocket? It may just be the most rewarding thing you do today.
The following program is a PodcastOne.com production.
From Hollywood, California, by way of the Broken Skull Ranch, this is the Steve Austin Show.
Give me a hell yeah.
Hell yeah!
Now, here's Steve Austin.
All right, everybody, welcome to Steve Austin Show. I am coming to you from the mean streets. Scratch that. I ain't coming from the mean streets. I'm out here at the Broken Skull Ranch 2.0 in Nevada. Sitting here looking out the window of my shop at the mountains, and I am fixing to gas up my buggy, and I'm fixing to go on about a 50-mile ride and enjoy the fresh air out here. The weather has been unseasonably warm for this time of year, which that means it's a great time to go riding because it ain't too cold and it ain't too hot. It's absolutely perfect. So I'm about to get my ass out there and just chill and think about absolutely nothing while I travel down the back roads and some of the technical areas of some of the landscape out here. Hey, that being said, I got an interesting show for you today. I'm sitting here looking at the Wikipedia page for National Wrestling Alliance. Billy Corgan's NWA POWERRR is on YouTube now, and they drop a new episode every Tuesday at 6:05 Eastern, I believe. Kind of like the old school days. I guess when it was on TBS. It comes on at 6:05, but every Tuesday they drop a new episode. And so Billy Corgan kind of rebooted that after, man, when you think about the NWA, when you look at all the names that are attached to that, and of course that's what I grew up watching, it's kind of like a who's who list. And right now, number 27, current president and owner from 2017 on, Billy Corgan. Would love to talk to him on the podcast. Every time we used to, not every time, but damn near every time, we used to go down to the Rosemount Horizon over in Chicago, Illinois. Billy would come to the shows, and he'd be hanging out there just soaking everything in and watching. Obviously, he's a huge fan of the business, a very successful musician, and it was always cool to visit with that guy, really smart guy. And I just recently got turned on to NWA POWERRR on YouTube by a couple of friends of mine. So I started watching a couple of the episodes. And it's a whole lot different flavor and a whole lot different vibe than anything else going on right now. And it's studio based, which I did a lot of studio wrestling when I was coming up in the wrestling business. You don't see it too much anymore. It feels kind of intimate. It's an interesting atmosphere, a cool setting. Most of the guys they got over there can, cut a pretty damn good promo. The work is really good too. It's a different flavor and a different style. It's that old school feel. And of course, I love Jim Cornette. He's one of my favorite personalities / managers, minds of the business. Or whatever. I just love Jim Cornette. He's a part of it. He's one of the announcers along with Joe Galley. So it's always interesting to hear Jim talk about whatever he's talking about, specifically when he's talking about wrestling. And my guest today on the show is Eli Drake. Now, Eli Drake has been around for a long time. He's a well-traveled veteran. He's been all over the place. Hell of a good worker. Damn good promo. And we had a little bit of a kind of a correspondence on Twitter. And I found out that Eli just lives about 20 miles from me over in Hollywood, California. So he's not too far from the mean streets over there in Marina Del Rey. So I got in touch with him. I sent him a direct message. I said, hey, man, I always like to talk to, people from the business of pro wrestling. I shot him a direct message. I said, hey, man, let's do the podcast. And he goes, hell yeah. So anyway, we set it up, we hooked it up, and here comes Eli in his, I think it's a 2011 white Corvette. And it surprised me. I didn't know Eli was going to be a Corvette guy. So he's got good taste in cars. And we're going to shoot the breeze. We're going to talk about his start. We're going to talk about his travels and the highs and lows and everything that goes with being in this business. And it's been a crazy ride. And he's got an interesting story. So Eli Drake is my guest today. You can catch him and everybody else from NWA POWERRR on YouTube. And they drop a new episode every Tuesday at 6:05. And again, Joe Galley and Jim Cornette are the announcers. Got some good talent out there, good stories in the ring, a good feel. Check it out and give it a look, because it's not like anything else that is out there today. And there's so much out there today, it's unbelievable. We were changing channels the other day, and my wife said to me, she goes, "Wrestling is on TV again?" Because my wife never was a wrestling fan. And I'm like, I put a big smile on my face. I said, yeah, it is. So it's refreshing to see so much wrestling out there, for me anyway, specifically, and also to see it on YouTube, just a different format. There's always something of a different flavor that people will dig, and I like this old school vibe. Eli Drake is my guest. Check out this conversation, and if you got any questions, send me a question, suggestion, or whatever to questions@steveaustonshow.com, and join my conversation with Eli Drake of NWA Power on YouTube, Billy Corgan's operation. Hey, man, it's getting cold outside. Winter's coming. The temperature's dropping, so what sense does it make to go around town freezing your ass off, getting all of your office supplies together, when you could just get them all at the same time? Well, my guys at Zorro.com are here to make it hassle-free, because they got everything you need in one place. Zorro.com, spelled Z-O-R-O, is where you'll find everything you need for businesses of any size in almost any industry: electrical, plumbing, contracting, manufacturing. Don't sweat it, because Zorro has you covered. Zorro.com has tools and equipment, safety and office supplies, cleaning items, and more from brands you know and trust, such as Stanley, 3M, Milwaukee, Schneider, and Rubbermaid, just to name a few. Zorro.com offers amazing customer service from real people based in the U.S. And you'll dig the fast, free shipping on orders of $50 or more. Just for listeners of the Steve Austin Show, visit Zorro.com/Austin to sign up for Z-Mail and get 15% off your first order. Again, at Zorro.com/Austin for 50% off your first order. Zorro.com/Austin. Get it all in one place.
The Steve Austin Show. The Steve Austin Show.
Sitting here with Callie doing an unprompted run-in, trying to steal the show from Eli Drake, a.k.a. Sean Ricker. Sean, welcome to the crib here.
Thanks, man. This is really cool being here. And, yeah, Callie is going to do a bunch of shoot run-ins, I have a feeling, and I'm probably going to be the one bringing her in here. I can't help it. My hand keeps gravitating down here to just pet her.
Could you do a favor and get some color for her or something?
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
We got to make this shit real. Hey, so here we are. We've been talking for 20 minutes. I finally decided to hit the record button so we could actually document some of this horse shit.
Oh, I thought we were done already.
Sean Ricker, ladies and gentlemen, you can find him on Instagram and Twitter. Hey, you rolled up. Sean sent me a text message. He goes, "How's parking over there?" And I said, "Man, the street should be open, but just pull into my driveway behind my Ford Focus." He goes, "Oh, man, I thought we was going to be the twin Corvettes today." And I'm thinking, this dude ain't rolling up in a Corvette.
Oh, yeah.
White Corvette.
Oh, yeah. And I think I saw that you have a white Corvette as well, right? You got a C7.
I did, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think yours is a little more souped up than mine, but...
Dude, you know what? It's too fast. I used to have a 2007, looks just like yours, and it was silver, and I should have kept that damn thing, because the Corvette I got now just scares the shit out of me. If you launch into it, especially getting into winter, because it has those P-cup tires on it or whatever, some kind of racing tire.
Right.
They're horrible in cold weather, so basically you're limited to driving the car unless you want to put the damn thing in a ditch. But it's just too much for me. And I need to sell it and go slower.
And it's a Z06, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. See, I don't even have a Z06. So.
Yeah, but I got a steal of a deal on it. That's why I got it.
Right, and I can't imagine hitting the gas on that thing, because mine even, I mean, sometimes you got to test the limits of the thing, especially on the freeway. So I start just punching the gas every now and then just to get that little bit. It gives you a little tingle in the loins, because you start to think like, man, this thing could take off at any moment.
Mine starts puckering my ass. So
right.
It's a little bit different than the tingling in the loins.
Right.
I'm about to shit myself. Hey, so you've been a car guy all this time? Because not all the boys that I run into are car guys.
I've been a broke down car guy for a long, long time. So like this having this Corvette is not flossing, as they say. It's not showing. It's just basically, to me, it's almost a symbol of stability. And a Corvette was a car that I always loved as a kid. I had those little tracks where, like, you put the car down on it, has like the little needle that goes in the middle, and you pull a little trigger, and they go racing around. There was 2 Corvettes, a red and a blue. And ever since then, I was just enamored with Corvettes. And so all through my 20s, I was broke as hell. I had a beat up Jeep. I had an old Pontiac Grand Am, all cars that were like over 100,000 miles, constant car troubles. I got stranded in Baker, California when I was driving cross country one time. I've had a lot of bad car issues. So finally, when I had a little bit of money, I was very smart with my money that I made at Impact and saved it. But at the same time, it was like, all right, well, let me spend it wisely where I can. And I found a good deal on a car, and it was a Corvette. And I said, let's do this. It's time.
Yeah, before you had that white Corvette, you had a black Corvette.
I had a black
Somebody
one.
backed into you. You totaled it out. How hard did they hit you? Were you in the vehicle?
Well, yeah, I was doing.
Did you jump out holding your neck?
Well, I thought about that for a second. No, actually, what ended up happening was I'm going about 25 down the street, maybe 25, 30, something like that, residential area, and this lady's backing out in a RAV4, smashes me in the passenger side fender. But immediately when I stop, I hear a baby crying. She's got a baby in the back seat. Obviously just shaken up from the it is on this show. Yeah, right. Shaken up from the, just the impact and whatnot. They were fine. Everything was fine. Barely a mark on their car. My car's totaled. Corvette's a loser in that battle. SUV versus Corvette. So sad to see that one go. I actually, honestly, and I don't mean to, look the gift horse in the mouth, so to speak, but man, I miss that black Corvette, and I wish I still had that one. I like that one better. It was an 08, so it was a little bit older than this one, but it was just so perfect. It damn near looked like the Batmobile. I felt like a damn superhero riding around the thing.
I wish I had my silver 07 rather than the one I got now, just because I could jump on that and control it. And now the one I got is just a little too much. But it sounds to me like as much as you love your cars, and now you got the Corvette. You're not a mechanic by any stretch of the imagination. Am I wrong?
I've done. I'm a very much do-it-yourself guy because, like I said, I was super, super, super broke in my 20s, so I had to learn to do a lot of stuff for myself. Basically, my dad gave me the instructions over the phone how to change my own oil. I've changed an alternator. I've changed belts. I've done stuff like that.
But how handy?
Out of necessity.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, man. When I had my ranch down in South Texas, I let my buddy do a lot of the stuff, but because I could do other things while he was doing that. But like you said, when you're in the middle of nowhere or you don't have the funds to facilitate it, you damn sure know how to be hands-on with stuff because you have to if you want to be up and running.
Absolutely. At the same time, now it's like I'm not doing most of that stuff. If I need an oil change, I'm taking it into somewhere.
But here's the problem living in Los Angeles. If you wanted to change your oil, because where you at? You live in Hollywood, right?
Yeah, and I'm in an apartment complex. I can't do that.
So you got to dispose of the oil.
Right.
You got to get the car up in the air just a little bit to crawl out. You ain't going to crawl underneath a Corvette. So that necessitates going to an oil change place.
Exactly. So none of that stuff's being done. And look, all the cars that I worked on before were very simple 4-cylinder cars. Now you got this big bitch of a V8, and I don't know what I'm doing as much with that. But to your point, I mean, there is a little bit that I know when I'm working under that hood, but not, it's limited.
You've been in Los Angeles, give or take 10 years, right?
Roughly, on and off. I mean, with exception of like the 15 months that I was in WWE in Orlando in 2013, 2014.
What brought you out here? Because you're from Maryland, right?
From Maryland. I started wrestling actually in Cincinnati, Ohio. I was at HWA via, Les Thatcher who was running that. Spent about 6 years there, and I was just like, you know what, I'm done with winter. I just wanted to get the hell out of that. I wanted to go west. And actually, I'd also been doing a little bit of commercial work and whatnot, acting and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, man, let me get to the West Coast where it's warm. The women are beautiful. And maybe there's a little bit bigger chance of me doing more acting. Although, oddly enough, I was doing a lot more acting work when I was in Cincinnati. It's just, it's a bigger pond out here, but at the same time, my focus got so intensely crazy on wrestling, as it always was, but it was just that it felt like I'd been 6 years in the business at that point, and it was just driving me insane that I knew I had something to offer and nothing was happening yet.
Why wasn't it happening?
Some of that was me shooting myself in the foot. Some of it was me not knowing how to ask for what I wanted. because, I would get the stints where you get the extra matches or the dark matches or whatnot at WWE, but I'd never follow it up with, hey, man, how do I get a job here? How can I work here? It was basically me trying to get another extra stint, get another dark match, where I'm hoping that now they're going to make the overture to be like, hey, can we bring you in and we'll give you a job, which you got to be the squeaky wheel. And I just didn't know how to do that.
But, okay, but how are you shooting yourself in the foot?
Oh, man. So 2008.
Are you like a heat-seeking missile? What's happening here?
Okay, so I can be very misunderstood in a lot of ways. When I was at the Performance Center, I was super hated for the first probably 2-3 months.
Why?
Because I'm a quiet guy. I'm very much an introvert, and that shocks some people, especially when they see what I do on TV, because I'm very verbose. I talk a lot, but for the most part,
you talk a lot here.
I'm talking a lot. Well, hey,
I
look,
like it. I didn't bring you here to be a deaf mute.
Microphones are on. We're ready to rock. But no, it's really strange because I was always a shy kid. I very much stayed to myself. I remember my mom would always point out, she'd pick me up at basketball camp or something, and I'd be sitting by myself while the other kids are over here. And I was interacting with them the rest of the day, but it was I just wanted that time to just kind of sit by myself. So a lot of times I get to the shows, and if I don't know anybody, I'll go and say hello to everybody, and then I'll just go off and be by myself. So they see me being over here by myself, and they're like, well, what's wrong with this guy? He thinks he's better than us, or that kind of thing. And then they see him being very verbose with a microphone, and they're like, well, wait a minute. He's talking like that, and then he can't come back here and talk to any of us. But at some point, what ends up happening, this happens every time. I used to live with a friend up in Reseda when I first moved here in 2009. And one of his friends that lived in the house, after about 2 or 3 months of living there, he was like, we were having a couple beers out front, and he was like, I didn't get you at first. I thought you were a complete douchebag. I didn't know why Eric was hanging out with you. But, after hanging out with you a little bit, you're actually pretty cool. And I'm like, story of my life. Everywhere I go, that happens. I don't know if it's demeanor, way I carry myself, what it is. I think I carry myself very confidently, but then me not talking to people, I think translates as I don't want to talk to them or whatever that is. Same thing at Impact, but one very sauced up night after Bound for Glory 2015, a bunch of the guys like Robbie E., Simon Diamond, all these guys would joke that it was the biggest babyface turn in locker room history because I was super hated. And then that one night was just a big pivotal turn where all of a sudden everybody loved me. And so it was just a big change, and that always happens. NWA, it's different because now it's I've been around enough where I've crossed paths with so many people where they know. And once I'm familiar with people, I'm on and I'm good. It's a matter of being comfortable and things like that. But as far as shooting myself in the foot, oh man, 2008, I had a big opportunity. I was invited to do Raw and SmackDown. I drove all the way from, Cincinnati, Ohio to Washington, D.C., I did a dark match. I think it was me and Gene Snitsky versus Crime Time. Match went over great. Jamie Noble was putting me over huge. He was like, I want you to come back next week. Come back next week for Philadelphia and Bridgeport, Connecticut. I'm like, well, shit, that's a hell of a drive from Cincinnati. And I got to go back. I was working at Applebee's at the time. So I was like, well, I got to go back and work. But okay, I'll make the drive. Did that. Got to Monday Night Raw in Philadelphia. We did nothing because they were doing the Slammies that night. So it was pretty much we got in the ring and worked out. And Jamie was making sure I was the first guy in the ring. So if anybody there who was making decisions saw me in case we got cut off or anything like that. So I was very thankful for that. Now, here's where it was stupid. I had separated my shoulder maybe 2-3 weeks before that, and it was really nagging me, bothering me. And so I decided the next day when I got to Bridgeport, I was like, let me go check with a doctor or a physical therapist, somebody like that. They worked me out, got everything good, and I'm thinking, well, hell, I got to go get a pump because at the time, you're talking 2008, business was a lot bigger then. A lot of the guys were huge. Everybody was 6'5", 260. And here's my little ass at, 6'1" and about probably 215, 220 at the time. So I'm like, I got to get a pump. I can't go in there flat. Well, my dumb ass got a pump and didn't pay attention to the clock. So I got there an hour late. I got there at 3 o'clock. Call time was 2 o'clock.
The cardinal sin.
Right. And so I got there and I'm thinking, well, I should be okay because yesterday we didn't even check in until 4 o'clock. Should be fine. Of course, I get to the extra talent locker room. Everybody's bags are already unpacked. I'm like, oh, shit. Hurry up, lace those boots on. Have you ever had that nightmare where your music's on, you haven't laced up your boots? I'm having it real life right here. So I'm lacing these things up. I run out to the ring, and then they just clear the ring of all the guys who are training because now they're going to start running through stuff and, whatever. So I immediately run up to Johnny Ace, and he's like, hey, Sean, have you gotten a chance to get in the ring yet? And I'm like, no. And I start explaining to him everything that happened. And he's like, okay, good. And he just kind of like turns away. And I'm like, oh, shit. I go over to Jamie Noble and I'm like apologizing to him. Now I'm on the apology tour. And he's like, man, this was not the day to do it. I had guys out here to look at you. And I'm like, I know, I'm so sorry. If there's anything I can do, I'll come back next week for free. You guys don't have to pay me, whatever. None of that. They didn't talk to me for the next 2.5 years. Nobody would answer a call, an email, voicemail, nothing. Finally when somehow I got blackballed. I don't know if it was for that. I don't know what the hell else it would have been for because I never had any interactions with anybody. So once there was kind of a reshuffling of the deck as far as talent relations and whatnot, I hit up the new guy who was there in 2012, Kangan Seaman, sent him some of my stuff. For the first time ever, I got a prompt response via email. We kind of talked back and forth, and eventually I was able to get a tryout, nailed it. On we went. 2013, I was one of the first classes to start up at the Performance Center. But, man, that was already 10 years deep. So,
but what became out of that? Because you were there and then you were gone.
Oh, boy. All right. So now we're in probably 2 weeks deep. And the way it was set up, we would do quarterly reviews. All the talent would like sit down with Kangan, Bill DeMott, I forget who else was in the room. But they would basically say like, you're doing this right, whatever. I got in the room and I'm maybe 2 or 3 weeks in, just the way it was set up in the quarter. And Bill basically just says like, I've expected to hate you from day one. He's like, but you're doing everything I want. And I'm like, okay, well, that's a weird way to start off this relationship. And our relationship was okay until somehow, I think it was because I had just done the show with The Rock called The Hero. And because of that, just having a little bit of TV time, they were kind of pushing me up a little bit. So Mattel was coming in to do scans of everybody, and I was put on that short list of guys to do the scans. Well, we had NXT taping the night before, and I had no food for the next day. And again, being body conscious like an idiot, well, not like an idiot, but in that moment like an idiot, I stayed up to 2 a.m. prepping food for the next day. Well, I had to get up at 6 a.m. to go to the Performance Center. I found out the hard way. I don't know what kind of phone you have. I had a Samsung Galaxy at the time. If you don't answer that alarm in 1 minute, it shuts off by itself. And I found out the hard way. So
Sean.
I know.
Damn it, man.
I should have set a second one.
Yeah.
And well, after that, it made me actually go and I downloaded an app where you have to solve a math problem in order to shut off the alarm. So anyway, I showed up. I think I woke up 10 minutes before I was supposed to be there. I'm rushing in. I'm trying to call Bill. I'm like, hey, I'm on my way in. I get in there and I'm 30 minutes late, but I'm still there before Mattel. So I'm like, okay, we should be fine. Find me, whatever you guys got to do. I'm good. And Bill's just like, no, you can't stay here. He's like, it sends a bad message. And I'm like, Bill, you're killing me. This is a huge opportunity. Find me, whatever we need to do. He's like, no, you got to go. Sends me out. And I'm thinking like, this is awful. This is terrible. This is really bad. It's a bad punishment, but that wasn't the end of it. Then I was taken off of SmackDown. I was supposed to go to SmackDown in like 2 weeks. They took me off of that. They took me off the next probably 3 weeks to a month of live events for NXT. And I'm just like, God damn, you guys are really beating this one into me. And Norman Smiley used to always joke that, they paid for one of the rings with all my fines for being late. I'm the worst at being on time to shit. And that does not fly well there. So from then on, Bill's and I's relationship just got kind of wonky. It was almost like a wink and a nod kind of relationship where it was like we'd kind of talk shit to each other and whatnot. But then it also got kind of weird to the point where it was like I felt like I had to pull him aside a couple times and just be like, what's the heat? He'd be like, oh, no, there's no heat. And I'm like, okay. But then I'd go up to him in the morning. I'd be like, good morning, Bill. And I'd go to shake his hand. He'd look at my hand and walk away. And I'm like, you're the head coach. And I feel like you got to set some level of an example. And he would always say he's working. And I'm like, I get that. But like working for who? We're in the Performance Center right now. Like there's no cameras here. We're just here. I'm coming to say hi to essentially my boss, the guy who's running the deal here. And you're just looking at my hand and walking away. And so it just became kind of contentious to the point again where there was one last time where like I just came into the office. I'm very much face to face. I want to talk things out, not in an angry way, not in a confrontational way, but just like, what's the heat? How can we make it better? And that was basically the exact conversation we had. But then the report that I started hearing through the grapevine was that I stormed in the office, slammed the door, and was looking for a fight. Anybody who knows me, and not to mention there are cameras in the damn place, knows that. That's not how I handle business. Especially, why am I I'm gonna go try and fight my.
But let me ask you something. Going back to your days at the Performance Center, you'd already been in the business, 10 years?
10 years.
Okay, so what are they trying to teach you there in the performance system? Because as I've heard Triple H say, kind of got to learn the playbook. And I think when he says that, I think he's referring to, hard camera or cameras in general. I'm just guessing. Or just from a level of mechanics, making sure everybody's on the same page as far as how we execute things. If you're a 10-year vet, you probably pretty well know most of this stuff. So, was it enlighten me?
Well, see, that was the conflict because I would go and talk to Bill and ask him what the heat was, and I would say, like, look, if we have this kind of heat where I'm not going to progress, I shouldn't be here. I should just go. I should leave. Because okay, so I don't know if you know Chris Chambers, of course you know Michael Cole, Dusty Rhodes. Dusty, of course you know those. They're all putting me over. Like, I don't know, like, they were like, you should be on Raw, SmackDown, whatever. Like, this is when NXT was still kind of just coming up. They were like, you're ready for everything. I don't know if you have heat. I don't know if you have this, that, whatever. But I think I went to do a dark match on NXT one time, and Michael Cole's talking about, we want you to go down and do this, and he's saying something to Bill about, hey, can we have him start? I forget what it was, but they wanted me to do something in the Performance Center, and I'm standing right there, and Bill just goes, yeah, we'll do that, but he doesn't take direction very well, and I'm like, goddamn, Bill, okay. And it was just like,
always kind of these little backhanded. It was a backhanded compliment to start off, and then now it's just these kind of
and I don't mean to bury Bill. I don't mean to jump on that train because everybody says that. Honestly, I've never had an issue with the way Bill trains. I actually like it. I like a drill sergeant guy. I like a guy who's in there yelling at you, pushing you, all that kind of stuff. I'm down with that. But the stuff where it's like disrespectful, you look at my hand when I try to shake it and you walk away, stuff like that, no good. If I was hard to work with, cool, but he's the only coach I had heat with. Billy Gunn, we were great. Norman Smiley, we were great. Robbie Brookside, we were great. At Regal, we were great. All these guys, Joey Mercury, always put me over. But for whatever reason, there was just heat there. And of course, he's the one guy who writes the reports and decides if you're moving on or not. And at some point, when I ended up finally getting released, it was Triple H who was, because I went up and talked to him like the night before, and I was just like, hey, I don't know if you know a lot about what I'm doing. I was like, but, I'd like to have an opportunity to try and showcase, whether it's character, talking, whatever. And I tried to make some pitches. And he was like, no, I know about you. You're very talented. Everybody's been putting you over. He's like, problem is you're your own worst enemy. And so he starts naming off, the time I went out and talked to Bill in the office, which again, same way I'm talking to you now.
Right.
There was no yelling. There was no tone raising. There was nothing. It was just literally sat down and said, Bill, I got to know what's the heat. That was it. And we talked from then on. So there's that. But I am very, very, very passionate. Maybe I am tough to work with. I don't know. There's a great example right now with NWA. We're trying to get a T-shirt out for me, but I'm just like, I want to make sure that's something that I like, that I would want to wear. So it's like, I'm very passionate about wanting to make things very good, perfect. I want wrestling to be a certain way. I want my wrestling to be a certain, you guys can do whatever you want. You can do it your style, but there's a particular way that I want to do mine. And it's not that I can't play by the playbook, but I just want you to be straight up with me. That's always been my biggest problem, whether it was Impact, WWE. If I'm hearing heat second, third hand, just come talk to me. Tell me what you need me to change. I am very easy to deal with when we deal face to face. But when I start hearing things second, third hand, that's where I get frustrated. And I'm like, why can't somebody just come and talk to me?
Well, let's backtrack a little bit. Go back to your childhood. If you grew up in Maryland,
yeah.
I imagine what, a small town?
Yeah, small town called Hagerstown. You're talking probably an hour west of D.C., Baltimore.
Okay, so then you're growing up, going through school. Are you in athletics?
Yeah.
When I watch your ring style, you don't really remind me of anybody. You remind me of someone who studied a lot of people and come up with their own style, a very athletic style.
Right.
Solid, ground-based, athletic.
Yeah.
A pro style. So were you in athletics? You play football? Were you a good student? Because I'm going back to this introvert, and I'm saying, okay, does this guy need this outlet? Or I'm trying to get a picture of you as a youth.
I was very much a C-level student, and only because
shit.
I was a C student.
Listen to you talk. Some of the words you break out, and you're articulate, you're eloquent, you got a good way of expressing yourself. Think, hey, this kid, maybe he's pretty smart.
Well, thank you.
Well, is it because of lack of effort?
Well, no, yes. It's homework. I am the worst. I like, my mom would always be like, you have homework? I'd be like, oh yeah, it's done. I got it. So tests, I do great. Give me an SAT, give me an ACT. That's the only reason I got into college was I had ACT, SAT. I scored well on it. But as far as doing homework, man, I remember my senior year, I did a paper in earth science, and my teacher wrote, it was 78%. And at the bottom of it, he said, "You're a really smart kid, but you're lazy as a dead rat." So
lazier than a dead rat. First time I ever heard it. Go ahead.
So that's always been the thing is like, I great student, all that stuff. It's just like,
It doesn't sound to me like you were interested in school.
I wasn't. It depended on what it was. Something had to really kind of bring me in. Math, loved. I was always the guy who messed up the curve in math.
Yeah.
Oh no, I love math.
Yeah.
So like algebra, especially like anything like that. Like I was the guy who'd get a 99 or 100 who would mess up the curve, and everybody else is stuck because sometimes they'd have that grading curve. But then you get me in like English, and like I'm good at writing if I sit down and write, but making me sit down and write, it was really the challenge. That was why I did so poorly in English, because it was just like, God damn, I got to write a 4-page paper. This is never going to happen.
That's why I dropped out of college after 5. I was in my 4.
Right.
I was in my 5 years. I had to pay for this semester. I was on an athletic scholarship. Finally, I'd written so many damn research papers or whatever you do. You write for English.
Yeah.
I said, fuck it. I'm done. 17 hours to graduate. I'm out.
And college English, they don't mess around. It was like,
Did you get a degree?
No.
What were you going for?
Thankfully, and I say thankfully for many reasons, but I was going for business administration. Well, actually, at first when I was going, I had no idea what I was going for.
Okay, so I wanted to go. I wanted to be. I think my dad was an insurance salesman. I'll go as a business major. I'll get into business with them, sell insurance. Hell, after algebra and everything else, accounting kicked my ass. I kept dropping it. I said, okay, I'm not going to be a businessman. I'm not going to get an insurance business. I'll be a coach. So I switched to a PE major, and then I dropped out. But what were your aspirations? Because you were a fan of the business from an early age.
Oh, yeah.
All of a sudden, you go through college. What did you think that you were going to end up doing with your life?
I didn't have a damn idea.
We're going to get into wrestling here in a minute.
Oh, yeah.
You didn't have a clue?
I didn't have a damn idea because, you're talking about having that conduit of working in a business that your dad's in and stuff like that. My dad worked for different trucking companies. He worked for PIE before they went out of business, eventually ABF until he was forced into early retirement. And my mom was a bank branch manager. So we were very much just middle class, middle of the road. And so all I knew was that I can remember my first year in college just saying, whatever I do, I want to make sure I'm making at least $100,000 a year. That was my goal. And I remember it was into my senior year, man. Just if I can take a little tangent for a second, when you messaged me yesterday, you have no idea the way that my mind just melted when I saw your name in my DM. It was crazy because in high school I wanted to be you. I wanted to be The Rock. I wanted to be the both of you. And so, I remember it was toward the end of my senior year. I was in the drum line. So aside from also being in sports, I played baseball all the way up until probably 11th or 12th grade.
What position?
I was usually an outfielder. I liked center field and left field. Yep. Occasionally, once I started to suck a little bit, they put me in right field. I played basketball. I ran cross country my senior year, which I didn't even mean to do. It was kind of just my friends were doing it, and I was like, well, let me get in.
How do you end up running cross country if you don't mean to?
So I had never run cross country, ever, never. And my senior year, 2 of my friends started doing it.
Well, you got some bullshit stories. They're all true.
No, I know, right? So a couple of my friends, they started doing it, and I was like, well, hell, if I start doing this, I'll be in great shape for winter sports or, whatever I want to do. Ultimately, didn't even end up playing any damn winter sports, so forget it. But I ended up on the team. Actually, I ended up doing pretty well. I was a state finalist. I got scholarship offers from them. I ended up being 3rd on the team. I only weighed 155 pounds at the time, but I was still like the biggest guy on the team. So like very natural athletic. My dad was a huge baseball player. Both my brothers, baseball, football, basketball. So we come from a very athletic family. But being on the drum line actually probably taught me more discipline than anything. And I know that might sound crazy to people because they're thinking like, oh, band nerds, whatever. But I'm telling you that our drum line was so different from the rest of the band. Like we were like damn near militant. Like we'd stand at attention all day, holding these drums on. If we mess something up, stop, start it over. You mess it up again, you're doing push-ups. Mess it up again, you're going to do a roll stroll. And a roll stroll was where you march all the way around the whole damn school, doing a drum roll the whole way. Sometimes you're on your toes while you're doing it. It was just crazy stuff. So you kind of learn to go through the pain. And I know that sounds ridiculous. You're playing drums, you're in the band, whatever, but I'm dead ass serious. It was real shit. And because we were actually like a championship
Right.
Drumline. And like we were in like the Macy's parade and all this kind of stuff. So anyway, my senior year, I started making these shirts with like my face on the back. I had like the Rick on it. It's me doing the eyebrow on the back. I'm carrying championship belts around at these competitions. Just dumb stuff to entertain myself while I'm at the shows when we're done playing. People start following me around and cheering for me, and I'm doing the worm and all kinds of stupid stuff. And now my friends are like, you're totally going to be a wrestler. I was like, no, I'm too small. I can't do that. And I think it was like a year into college, and I was just like, well, shit, maybe I'll actually do this wrestling thing. And that's when I started thinking like, okay, once college is over, I'm gonna go start training for wrestling. But first, I want to make sure I'm over 200 pounds. So I just started eating everything in sight because I worked at a restaurant where I was the only non-convict dishwasher. And one of the other dishwashers in work release was super jacked. And I was like, dude, what are you doing? I was like, what do you work out? He was like, the workout's one thing. He's like, but you got to eat. He was like, here's the secret. He was like, eat everything you can. And when you can't eat anymore, eat more. And so I'm like, shit, okay.
And that's okay when you're a kid and somewhat of a mesomorph. You tell that to an endomorph who's pre-diabetic, they're going to end up being really heavy.
Awful device.
Now, stop for a second.
Yeah.
I want to come back to where you're at right now. But if you're making T-shirts out of yourself and you're doing the worm and you're the Rick and you want to be a little bit of Stone Cold, you want to be the Rock, man, for an introvert, you sure are outgoing.
Well, in that sense, the security blanket was my friends because my friends would all follow me around because they also wanted to now do the same. They wanted to have shirts and they wanted to have belts. So we had like the old.
You started leading the pack in.
I had that Smoking Skull belt. It was like the little styrofoam version you got at Target. And I was carrying that thing around. And so my friends ended up getting, these other little cheap styrofoam belts and whatnot. And they'd walk around with me. So they were like my entourage. That was if I was just doing it by myself, it would have been tough to do. But I also have that mask of a character where it's like, I'm not necessarily I couldn't go around and do the ridiculous stuff I was doing and talking in third person and stuff like that. But I was able to do it under the guise of a character and also having them with me. It was that security blanket. But now if I was to sit down and just, let's say I needed to go and talk to somebody I didn't know, forget it. I don't know what to say. I'm sitting there like, okay, I'll just say hi, and then the conversation will die, and see you later.
But when did you get over that? Because I know you're in a relationship right now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, dude, I mean, my point is, if you're out here in L.A., you're a single guy, and you're out there dating,
man.
I mean,
I'll tell you.
Walk me through the steps of that. An introvert in L.A. on the dating scene.
Oh, I'll take you through the steps. The steps are Tinder and Bumble. That thing's amazing because that shit. Look, there's cold sales and there's warm sales. That shit's a warm sale.
Yeah.
Because at that point you've already established interest. Both people have already swiped right on each other. You've already started talking. So by the time I get in person with them, turn on the charm, make them laugh for like an hour. We have drinks, and it's like, hey, you want to take a walk? And then we walk back to my place. We are good. And L.A. as a single guy is a fucking wonderland. It's the best place to be a single guy. But that said, I have a unique situation with the girl that I'm with now. I've kind of known her for 20 years.
How do you kind of know somebody for 20 years?
Okay, so it's very strange. So I went to school with her cousin. And so she's actually from Virginia. So she was from like an hour and a half away from me. 10th grade, I'm 15, she's 13. Her cousin's like, hey, you should meet my cousin. She's great. I'll give you her phone number, whatever. So we had like this.
Whatever.
Yeah, right. So we had like this 3-4 week.
You're killing me.
What do you mean?
What? Not typical stuff. Go ahead.
Well, okay. So here was the backstory on that. I was with her best friend for like 8 months before that. We had just broken up. They were on the outs. And so I guess to kind of like get at her a little bit, she was like, oh, you should talk to my cousin. I never met her cousin though. So we just had like this 3 or 4 week weird phone romance, if you want to call it that, 15, 13 years old. Never met her though, because how the hell am I going to get there? How's she going to get up there? It's not like her parents are going to bring her. My parents weren't going to take me. So eventually though, I found out she was in 7th grade. I was in 10th grade. I was like, hold on. I was like, that's too weird. Can't do that. I'm in high school. I can't do that stuff. So I just was like, I'm out of here. We never met. I met her incidentally at her cousin's wedding 5 years later. She was like, hi, nice to meet you. I'm the guy who was, the voice on the other end. She was with the guy she ended up marrying ultimately. They got divorced in 2017. She called me. She was like, hey, this is Michelle, Tara's cousin. I'm going to be out there in LA. It'd be great to catch up. and we just clicked immediately. Now, that doesn't mean that we got together immediately because I am a very guarded person. I had her at arm's length for a good 8 or 9 months before I finally let the walls down and let her in. And not to say that she was chasing me by any means. She was also kind of, newly single and doing her thing as well. But when the time was right, it worked out, and it's been a great, amazing relationship. She's an amazing chick.
Talking about erectile dysfunction can be a real hassle. Usually you got to kayfabe it and say you lost your mojo or you're just not feeling it tonight. But thanks to our friends at Roman, it is easy to talk about ED with a real doctor who can prescribe real medication. It's simple, safe, and totally discreet. With Roman, you can get a free online evaluation and ongoing care for ED, all from the comfort and privacy of your home. The doctor will work with you to find the best treatment plan. If medication is appropriate, Roman will ship it to you with free 2-day shipping. Again, the whole process is straightforward, simple, and discreet. No awkward visits to the pharmacy or doctor's office. Just for listeners to the Steve Austin Show, go to GetRoman.com/Austin for a free online visit and free 2-day shipping. Erectile dysfunction used to be tough to tackle, but now there's Roman. Complete an online visit today to connect with the doctor and take care of it. One more time, that's GetRoman.com/Austin for your free online medical visit and free 2-day shipping. Check it out.
Monday night is podcast night
For the Los Angeles Lakers.
What's happening, everybody? This is the official Lakers podcast. I'm your host, Mike Trudell. Super pumped to be here, flanked by Aaron Larsoul. You ready to go?
I'm ready to go. Let's get it.
I think the Lakers will be a top 10 defense.
Okay, you're calling your shot again.
Little turnaround pass blocked by Anthony Davis.
A team that has 2 stars or 2 superstars, in this case, as LeBron and AD, can sometimes cancel each other out. But I think they're both good candidates for MVP.
I really like the way that this team just feels to be around. It's a very clear message. It's 2 stars, LeBron and AD, and it's everybody else that's on board.
The relationship that is developing between those two, off the court and on the court, their cohesiveness on the court, I think in this case this is a special case that the 2 of them will enhance each other as opposed to taking away from each other.
Be sure to rate, subscribe, and leave a review.
Available on Apple Podcasts and PodcastOne.
Lob to AD. Athletic play.
This is the Steve Austin Show.
Let's get into the business of pro wrestling because that's what you're known for. And you've been real busy. You've had a long career up until this point with the NWA now. What got you interested in the business? Just changing channels on TV like myself, or what drew you to the business?
My dad's a big-time wrestling fan. He's always his dad watched it. Like, his whole side of the family would watch it. I remember, like,
I love that. You don't hear that too much anymore.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we watched NWA Saturday Night together. Was it Primetime, WWF? Yeah. I think even World Class was on ESPN for a minute, right? And so was AWA. He watched all of it, and I was right there with him. And eventually, come around Monday Night Raw and Nitro and all that stuff, it was changing channels back and forth between them, and we were on it. And I can remember way back to like WrestleMania 4 having like picnic during the daytime, and then all the guys would go in the basement and watch WrestleMania 4. So it was my dad's like old school roughneck dude from the rough end of town, stuff like that. And I mean, he looks not the same stature, but facially looks like Hulk Hogan. He's got the skull, not the long hair, but then the big handlebar mustache, and he was just a roughneck dude who'd go to the drive-ins back in the day and fight and stuff like that. But loved wrestling, still watches it now, and so it was just like through watching it with him, it was just like, damn, I loved it. I used to sneak out. They'd put me to bed. I'd sneak out. Nikolai Volkov's on the TV talking shit about Hogan. I couldn't stand that. So,
of course not.
I ended up telling them myself, and I started yelling at the TV, and then they found out that I was there and took me back to bed. But big time Hulkamaniac when I was a kid.
So you was a fan from the get-go?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so
before I can remember.
When you decided to drop out of college, I mean, what did your parents think about that? Because when I dropped out, it really hurt my mom and dad because I was going to be the first of 5 kids to finally graduate from college. None of us ended up graduating. Well, my sister's a nurse, but not 4 years of college. So it broke their heart. Like, you tell your parents, hey, you know what? I've had enough of this, and I'm going to go down the road, and I'm going to be a pro wrestler.
Well, no, it was actually forced. I was the first and only in my family to go to a university. I think one of my brothers went to a junior college, but I went to West Virginia University for like a year and a half. But my parents had gotten divorced just before I went to college, and it ruined their credit. I had no credit, so getting approved for loans that second year was a wash. It wasn't happening. And so I was in school for probably 3 months, and they kept saying like, hey, you're not officially on the roster for this class anymore. And I'm like, I know, just let me get the funding, and once I get it, then I'll be officially registered. So I couldn't end up getting the funding, so I had to drop out. At that point, it was just me working odd jobs. I sold vacuums door to door as a 19-year-old. I worked at like a paper mill, and then eventually I think I got a serving job just before I ended up moving to Cincinnati, Ohio, just after my 20th birthday in January 2003.
Now looking at what you're doing now, or watching some of your promos, as I was doing some research on you before you came over and listening to you talk, did selling those vacuum cleaners help you in any way, shape, or form as far as communicating, reading people, trying to...
I was awful at that. It was the worst because, like I said, I'm a natural introvert. So going and knocking on somebody's door and trying to get them to invite me in, ooh, man, that's daunting. No, I would say it didn't help me. What might have helped me, though, is serving, being a table server at a restaurant, because it's constant. You got to not only just be able to bring the food to them, but you got to, in a way, you kind of have to entertain them and just keep them happy. So there's plenty of that. But I mean, really, a lot of it was just watching you, watching Rock, watching Ric Flair, watching Jake the Snake, watching all these guys who were great talkers, and being like, shit, that's what I'm into. Because for me, and I remember my brothers saying this particularly, especially in the Attitude Era, they were like, I just watch wrestling for the talking, because everybody was so good, and the promos were good top to bottom. And that's kind of what I like about NWA right now, because I feel like everybody's solid on the stick, and I feel like that's something that's been so missing from wrestling over like the last probably 10, 15 years, with a few exceptions. And so for me, my main focus getting into the business was, I want to look like a wrestler, I want to talk like a wrestler, I don't want to wrestle like a wrestler. But to me, those first two really are the most important. If you look at the guys who are the most successful in the business, they're not doing holy shit spots. They're not doing backflips and all that. I can do a backflip, but do I need to do it? No. So sometimes you can pull that out, big match, whatever. But if I have to do that every single night, what do I leave for myself in a pay-per-view? What do I leave for myself in the big match if I've got to pull out all the stops to beat this guy on a regular match on TV who's not even the champion or whatever else? So it's just like stuff like that where I'm just like, man, be a great talker, because that's the whole reason I fell in love with the business. Because if I don't care about the guy, why am I going to care about what he's doing in the ring?
Oh, I couldn't agree with you anymore. You're preaching to the choir here. I had a limited move set. Oh, yeah, especially after I got dropped on my head and had to modify my style, turn myself into a brawler. Then I come up with Stone Cold thing. And the Stunning Steve thing was fine. You know, when I was doing Stunning Steve, and I was respected by, my peers as, hey, man, just pretty good worker. That's about it. Until I got the gimmick.
Right.
Then it went over the top. And then everything was full circle. But it all centered around what you're saying, being character-based and certainly a focus on promos. Good stuff in ring as well, and especially, when you're in there with someone who's hot and you have a hot dance partner and the storylines are good, it all goes back to the character, the storyline, the talking, and obviously the work is a part of it. But, I mean, getting there, just the character and the promos is a huge part of it.
Well, one of the things that stuck with me from the Performance Center was Billy Gunn would always say it's not about the moves, it's in-between stuff. What's your intent? How are you looking at the guy? What's your body language? All that kind of stuff. And that goes along with all that stuff with the character and whatnot. So the moves are good. You want to have snappy, good moves. You want to tell a good story. But at the same time, how are you presenting it? What do you look like? What are you doing? So all that stuff's so important. But I'm going to turn the tables for a second. I got a question for you. When you were coming out there and you're cutting those promos and you're burning the house down, now how much of that is prefab where you're kind of like, okay, you're working some stuff out, and how much of it is just get out there and just go? I know where I'm going and let me just run it.
Man, most of it was just get out there and go. And then, if I was working with Vince, really it was a case where, back in the days, it was still Wild Wild West. You'd go out there and you'd let someone cut a promo.
Yeah.
And obviously it's TV, someone's going to be cutting a promo on you, and you know what they might say, or they might run, and they might say, hey, man, you mind if I say this? Because they might take a low shot at you in an effort to get some heat or build you back up. And so you might have an inkling of what they're going to say, but then you just respond accordingly.
I always make sure to listen.
I'm a big believer in that. And, my stay in ECW with Paul Lee really helped me out. But to answer your question and get back to you, a lot of it was, if I was riding down the road and I knew I had a promo the next day, or I knew I was going to be talking about a situation, I would think about things.
Oh, yeah.
One time, I think I guaranteed that I would win the Royal Rumble. I think I'd already won 3 of them. I guaranteed a win, and I didn't win. And I went to the building that day, And for some reason, I was just thinking, okay, Beverly Hillbillies. I need a promo to take everybody's mind off the fact that I said I was going to win, end up getting tossed out. I turned the Beverly Hills theme song into a promo about, me not winning the Royal Rumble, then entering myself the next year. So what is your approach to promos?
Depends. Kind of the same. I probably look like a psycho sometimes because I'll come up with an idea of something, or I'll just so I like a lot of hip hop. I listen.
Well, I know because you kind of use rap as an influence for your promos.
For sure.
And I was wondering if that kind of was a reflection as far as your cadence and tempo, or how you like to flow with words.
For sure, a little bit of that, and so sometimes I'll be rapping a song in my car, but I'll do it like I'm cutting a promo, like in the sense where like I'm doing facials, and I'll do it more, not so much musically, but more like I'm actually talking it. And I think that that's a great tool in a certain sense. But at the same time, it's like I don't write anything out. Like I've got notes in my phone where it's like, okay, well, I might want to mention this at some point, or I might want to use this or whatever. I don't think I'd be good with a script. But I can't tell you how many times I've walked out there and I've just been like, just before going out in the curtain, I'm like, well, I don't know what I'm going to say, but we'll find out how it's going to go. And usually that's when some of the best stuff comes out. Because like I know what direction I need to go in. I know what I need to touch on. And as long as I know that, I can fill in the rest. And it usually works out pretty well.
I never forget when I came back from getting my neck fuse C3-4, 99, whatever it was. And when I left, we were cutting promos just like I told you, man. You kind of go out there, and it was what it was. You might have a bullet point or two, or someone might say, hey, man, remember this, or whatever. You go out there and you cut a promo. When I came back, that's when the papers started coming around.
Right.
And all of a sudden, man, I'll never forget. I've told the story many times, but I'm talking to you. And I was in a room with Vince, and someone had to track me down. I was watching matches. Hey, man, Vince wants to go to promo with you. And so, just like this piece of paper right here. And I said, Vince, when I get my hands on you, I am going to tear you limb from. And he goes, God damn it, Steve, give me your A promo. I'm like, I'm going to give you my A promo out here. I said, I can't give it to you here because I'm not stone cold in here. I'm stone cold when I get out there. And that's when I turn that shit on. And that's when I'm in a whole different universe.
Yeah.
And that's when, dude, when the red light's going, whether it's TV taping or if it's especially live, that's when I'm really on. I'll fuck his podcast up time after time after time doing opens or reads and stutter. But if Stone Cold's going to deliver a message and I'm talking to millions of people, you'll rarely see me F up.
Well, hell yeah. And I've had people, be like, oh, why don't you tell me what you're going to say? Or why don't we run through this? And I'm like, well, shit, man. I like half the time I don't know till I get out there, or even what I am going to say might not sound as good when I'm telling you now as opposed to when I get out there, because it's all about the delivery.
Well, yeah, that's where you put the mustard on it.
Yeah. So to me, but I don't mind getting a script. And as long as I don't have to say it word for word, because I'll use some of the material in there can be good. There are plenty of times when I was in Impact where they handed me a script. I only used maybe 5% of the damn thing, but at least there were some decent little morsels that I could be like, oh, I'll take this, I'll plug this in. Cool, yeah, I'll hit this, and we're good. And everything else is all on me.
What has been your approach to putting your in-ring style together? Because, like I said, you don't really remind me of anybody but yourself. So
that could be a good thing or a bad thing.
But let's move to the NWA because how long have you been with those guys now?
Since, end of June, I think I popped up at Ring of Honor Best in the World, and that was kind of my debut with the NWA. Okay,
so then I'd heard about NWA on YouTube, so then I started, tuning in and catching a couple of episodes. And I just enjoy the feel of it, the studio-based stuff, because we used to do that in USWA when we filmed live TV there in Memphis in front of a couple hundred people. I think y'all have bigger crowds than we did, but that's not the point. The point is just the way it feels, very intimate.
Yeah, it's just gonna,
And the guys you got to be a good talker.
Yeah.
Anywhere you go, but especially, when you're in a place like that, you got to be able to convey your message.
Well, that was the sell for me with Billy and Lagana, was basically like, we want to do this very character driven. Obviously the wrestling's got to be good, but we want it to be very much where you can carry the story with your character.
Well, see, that's one of the things I liked about the WWF way back in the day, when I was a kid growing up, everybody was a gimmick or a character, and the work was the work kind of evolved into that early 92, 93 stuff when they were slipping on banana pills and stuff like that, when I was rooted in WCW and we were doing real wrestling.
Right.
And so we kind of looked down on that. But when you look at the dressing room, the guys, the roster, everybody was a character, and shit, everybody on the card was over to a degree because they were a character.
Right.
And they were strongly identifiable. They all had finishes. They all had their trademark moves, and they had their gimmick. And so it was a very fun period as far as watching the characters. Sometimes not the work so much, but the characters. It's all about the characters.
Well, and I don't mean to go back and milk the Attitude Era again, but that's the reason why that was so over. It was so big because everybody had such developed characters. But it wasn't like cartoony. It was, you didn't have a trash man or any of that stuff.
A definable personality.
Right. And everybody from top to bottom. The first match out could be Val Venus. You hear that, hello, ladies, and the place goes nuts. The Godfather's music hits, it goes nuts. He's got his catchphrases. You got the New Age Outlaws. All these guys, it was like top to bottom. Everybody had so much charisma, so much character. They could all work a stick. If you ask me, and I think it'd be an accurate portrayal, is that that's what drew everybody in. Then the wrestling, everybody said, oh, the wrestling was horrible back then. Who cares? They were drawing money. They were drawing tickets. That's the bottom line. Steal your phrase.
How do you guys do the TV tapings? Like how often is that taking place and where?
Man, it's a hell of a schedule actually. We just filmed like the middle of October. We did 2 days, 4 episodes each day. So we're good through December 14th, the pay-per-view, and then the 15th and 16th, we pick up on tapings again. So the schedule is actually pretty nice and light. They can book me out here and there, but I think they're just trying to keep everybody healthy and good. And so in the meantime, I'll go roll around in a ring in Burbank and just kind of, keep fresh and whatnot. But otherwise, just staying ready for TV. But
who are you rolling with? Who are you working out with?
There's nobody you'd know. It's like a prop and a filming studio up in Burbank. They do.
But that's just good that you have access to a ring where you can just do things in a ring. Because if you're not, then the rust starts piling up.
Right. And yeah, well, I mean, especially if you're talking 2 months between shows. So it's infrequent, but when you get there, it is hustle and bustle because now you're talking, we're doing 4 episodes in a day. So then let's say that first episode I did, I had a match early on in that first show. Second show, I got to get dressed in my street clothes to go out and do an interview. Then I got to get dressed back in my gear to do a match on the third show, back in my street gear to do an interview on the fourth show. So it's a lot of back and forth, a lot of running around like a chicken with your head cut off and just figuring out what the hell am I going to do tonight.
Hey, we've talked a lot about just shooting a breeze about wrestling, and it's been a conversation that has flowed very easily because you're not a stranger to a microphone. I want to talk to you a little bit about your involvement with the show way back in the day, The Hero. And I don't want to talk about the whole show. I saw you dangling off a 63-story skyscraper.
Oh, boy.
One time I was in it was a legal procedure down in downtown L.A., and downtown L.A.'s got all these big-ass buildings, and we were at the top of this summit. And me and my wife, and we're sitting there at a table with a bunch of people, and I'm sitting there thinking, man, I've been here 15 years, Sean, but earthquakes still scare the hell out of me. Mm-hmm. And I'm used to hurricanes and tornadoes being from South Texas. So when the ground starts rumbling and I'm, I don't know how many stories I am, but we're in the top of that goddamn building. Right. And I'm thinking, oh man, this ain't going to be good. What if there's an earthquake while we're up here? How are we getting down? We're going to come tumbling down.
Yeah, you're not.
I see you hanging off the side of a dam with a cord, the whole gimmick on. Oh yeah. How was that?
Scary as hell. I mean,
are you like a thrill seeker?
No. Okay, so all it was like, you get these very vague clues on the show, and I'm just like, well, all right, well, I want to win the show, so I want to be in every challenge I can be in. So, I'm trying to be gung ho and do this, and then I learn what we're doing, and so I kind of had an idea the night before what we were doing, and the hotel I was in was I think I was on like the 28th floor of the hotel I was on, and it had like these floor-to-ceiling windows. So I went up and just kind of stood at the window the night before because, again, I didn't know exactly what we were doing, but I had an idea.
Dude, doing that bothers me.
See, I'm okay with that.
Okay.
But if I'm...
Because I'm always thinking one of the boys is going to rib me and push me from behind. We're going to tumble through.
Oh, no, it was just me.
Now you're getting a glimpse inside my mind.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Well, no, see, if I'm outside and I look up when I'm high up, that fucks me up. I don't know why, because I feel like I'm going to back roll off the damn thing. But anyway, so I'm just like, okay, as far as I knew, the building that I knew, somehow, I don't remember how I found out because it was super secret, but somehow I found out what building we were going to. And I was like, it's only 36 floors. I'm good, no problem, because my room was on the 28th. And I kind of like stood up at that window and I looked down and I was like, okay, I can get used to this. This is okay. So we go to the top of this 36th floor of this one building, and that's where we found out about our challenge. And they're like, okay, well, you guys are going to be hanging off this building. And it's this other building next to it about twice the size. And I'm like, oh, now I'm starting to shit myself. So now they got to walk us over there. They take us all the way up to the top on the roof of this 63rd story building. Basically what they do is they get us all suited up with the stuff. I'm playing cool on camera, but I am losing it underneath the surface. And you can I can tell anyway, because I know my demeanor and I can see how like serious and staunch my face is at the time. I'm almost like I'm like gritting my teeth. And so what they need us to do then is they hook us up on the harness. I sit on the edge of the building with my back to open air. There's nothing else. I'm just sitting on the edge. Then they're like, okay, now turn around and hang your legs off. So now I'm just sitting on the edge of the building, legs dangling. And there's this beam next to me. And they're like, all right, we're going to take the slack out. And then we want you to reach underneath, hold on. We're going to pull the rest of the slack out and then let go. So once the slack was out, I let go. And now I'm just hanging by the rope. And they're lowering me down. But the whole time I'm freaking out because I'm like, man, what if one of the pieces of this rope comes loose? I'm thinking like I'm 230. I'm going to be swinging back and forth. How much torque? How much, how many pounds is this, overall for real? Is that thing going to hold? So I got off to a slow start, needless to say, because I'm just like, I'm going to die. But eventually I got over it and just kind of tried to visualize it differently. I was like, just look at it like you're on this big floor. You're going back and forth. And eventually I was able to get out of my mind and just start going and doing it. But it was that was probably the scariest thing I've ever done, because then that night I went to sleep, and every time I would close my eyes to go to sleep, I kept imagining myself sitting on the edge of that building and just falling off backwards with no line attached to me.
You ended up taking the $35,000 payout rather
Best
than
move
taking
I ever
one.
made.
What was the challenge you decided not to do?
I didn't decide. They basically chose to not have me go on the challenge. So like every week you have to choose 6 people out of the 9, and 3 people have to stay behind. And again, always public enemy number 1 from the start until somebody warms up to me. No. I was on time for this one. But they basically like, okay, they kept me out of this one, and I was just at home alone. And I had heard on the challenge before that some people got offered $25,000. And I'm like, shit, that's life-changing. You don't understand. I went to that show with no money. Literally spent every last dime getting ready for it. So I had no money in my bank account. I don't think I had a bank account. I remember my bag was actually overweight. Flying down to Panama, and you have to pay that fee. Now
that's bullshit,
right? And so the production was going to pay me back if I paid the fee. I didn't have money to pay it in the first place, so I tucked my toe under the scale, and I had to hold the scale up. I think it was like 48 pounds or something. 100%.
That's great.
Now some airlines you can do that, and some you can't, because some of them are like kind of back a little bit further. I think it was on. I want to say it was either United or American, but wherever it was at LAX, I was able to kind of just tow it a little bit. Whether they'd have charged me or not, if it was like 52 or 54, I don't know. But all I knew was I have zero money to pay for this. I didn't have money to get a haircut. My hair looks fucking ridiculous on that show. It was awful. So when I heard $35,000, I'm like, all right, I'm going to feel like a dickhead, but I need this. Like, that's life changing. And it was life changing. It paid off all my school debt, everything. But here was the problem. I did feel like shit doing it. And the reason was, I already knew that I was getting signed to WWE. I had already had my tryout 2 weeks before we even started doing the show. They had already pretty much said that we were going to be moving forward. And I'm like, well, I don't want the people I'm about to go work with to think I'm a dickhead. So I'm like, I feel really bad taking this money, but I need it. And so from then on, I was turning down the offers after that. But goddamn, in retrospect, I wish I took every bit of that damn money. But at the same time, the money I did take was amazing. It got me out of debt. I actually started having a little bit of a savings, and that was like the beginning of my life going on a tremendous upswing.
I want to ask you a question about working Slammiversary 15, July 2nd, 2017.
I don't think I worked that one.
Oh, you didn't work? You, Moose and D'Angelo Williams versus Chris Adonis and Eli Drake?
2017.
What'd I say?
2015. 2015, I was still
I can't read my own writing.
Oh, you're all good. I was confused.
That's on me. Botch. Wrestle botch. I botched it.
Cancel the podcast.
I wanted to ask you about wrestling Moose and D'Angelo Williams because, man, I saw some of Moose's work, and I remember back in the day when he was about to get into business. Hey, man, the dude was a big-ass dude and very athletic and ground-based, but he'd do a little bit of jumping around. And then D'Angelo Williams was one of my favorite running backs there for a little bit when he was with Carolina. And just a stud athlete. How was working with him or both of those guys? And I don't know where Moose disappeared to because he was going to be like the next great big man in the business, and he disappeared.
Yeah.
And D'Angelo Williams never had another match.
Well, I mean,
we can't speak for them.
Well, yeah.
What are your thoughts?
Well, okay. So Moose is still with Impact, but but he's
okay. Now let me say this.
Yeah.
Impact is like you were on it for a long time, but
Yeah.
I mean you can't. I don't know where to find it.
Right.
And so we don't need to talk about it because you're not there anymore.
Right, exactly.
So I haven't seen the guy, but he's still around.
Yes.
Okay.
So he's I think he's still one of the top guys there at Impact. D'Angelo Williams never wrestled again. I don't know if he's planning to or what, but he did an amazing job in that match. I mean, particularly.
I tried to find that thing on YouTube. They must have put it behind the network because I wasn't log on to it. But I remember seeing it back in the day when it was out there, and I was like, "Holy cow, man! The guy did phenomenal." So, what was he a good cat?
Great, super easy to work with. He was super respectful, and at the same time, it was like I think you can still find his comeback at least.
But even talking about the match because he's a fan from way back when he was a kid, and he's about your age. But he has total respect for the business, total respect for everything that goes with the business and what the business is about. So he came in there with that mindset. And when someone comes in, another sport or a different world, sometimes they don't have that.
Right.
And he did.
And he took it super seriously on top of it. So it made it super easy. When you got a guy who's very athletic, he's willing to learn, he's willing to be coached and all that kind of stuff, it makes it so easy. And he spent a lot of time working on that. I think he was in like Nashville or wherever working with some guys, just trying to get all that together, and then it just came at time for that day and just figuring out where he was, what we could do with him, and he was damn good with what he could do.
One other thing I want to ask you about. I mean, I don't know if anybody's picked up the squeaking sounds when Sean is a very animated in conversation. His chair's been squeaking like a sumbitch. Now mine's starting to squeak. I need to get some WD-40 up in this sumbitch. I wanted to ask you about a mutual friend that we had in the business. And when I first broke in Dallas, Texas in 1989, Percy Pringle was around, and he was managing Ravishing Rick Rude. Rude, I think, had left to go to New York, and Percy Pringle was on fire back in the day. And then my green ass, they come in there and finally turned me heel, and we work a program against Chris Von Erich and another guy. And working with Percy was so much fun to me, and then to see him get picked up by WWF and become POWERRR and manage The Undertaker. And, he was just one of those guys that was just a super sweetheart. So how did he start managing you, or tell me about the friendship between you two guys? Because to me, he took me under his wing and helped me a whole lot when he didn't have to.
Right, and he was the exact same way. Super amazing, nice guy. And it just kind of came together because I was working at Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, then known as NWA Hollywood when they had that affiliation. And David Marquez, who's the promoter there, he put me and Brian Cage together as a tag team, and he wanted to bring in Percy to be our manager. It was either Percy or Jimmy Hart, and I think eventually they ended up going with Percy. And either way, I'd have been thrilled. Percy ended up coming in. Eventually, I broke off from Cage, and Percy stayed with me. And so it was he was with me for damn near 3 years up until he passed away. I think his last TV appearance, even though it was locally here in LA, was on Championship Wrestling from Hollywood at my side. And he was just, it's really crazy when you ask somebody for advice, they give it to you, and then they thank you for asking them. He was so grateful in that way that I wanted to learn under him. I wanted to ask, what he could impart to me. But it was also sad to see that. I knew he was very lonely. I would see the Facebook posts and stuff like that ever since his wife passed away, and it was very sad to see that all happening. And I feel like that's almost, he kind of let his health go because he wanted to go. He wanted to be with her. And that sucked, and that was sad in a selfish way, but at the same time, I get it. But amazing guy to work with. So great having him by my side. Such a great tool, if you will, and just such an awesome guy. And helped me get over amazingly. So I miss the guy. I miss those days. That was one of the most magical times of my career where I really feel like I was like steady on a come up right there, and he was with me the whole way.
You broke in 2003. We're speaking in 2019. It's about to click over into 2020 here in about a month and 2.5 months, whatever it is.
Crazy.
Where do you see this going? I mean, like, where do you want to go from here? Where do you want to end up? How much longer do you see yourself doing this?
Man, I don't have a damn clue, because sometimes I get real frustrated because, I think about how long I've been doing this, and I think about how long some other guys have been doing it, and they're on the back end of their career, and I'm, still trying to make it work. But thankfully, I've been relatively injury-free my entire career, knock on whatever I can. So that's good. 16 years I've been able to stay pretty clean with that. I don't know. There's been interest from WWE for the last 3 years, but I kept turning them down because Impact kept giving me raises. So I was just like, which maybe in the long term might not have been the best move, only because your up potential in WWE is so crazy. I mean, just the money people are making from the Saudi shows or whatever, or now with AEW and whatnot, like people are starting to get more money out of that too. But, it was the point where it was like 3 years in a row I kind of rang their bell and then turned away and went somewhere else. And I probably annoyed the shit out of them at this point. So I don't know. And AEW, there was interest there. We had kind of a deal worked out, but then it ended up falling through. And then I talked to Ring of Honor, I talked to NWA, and the most appealing offer I had was NWA with Billy Corgan and David Lagana. So at this point, I feel like it's got such a buzz. Obviously, it's brand new. Who knows where it's going to go, what it's going to do. It's on YouTube now, and I know a lot of people kind of look down at that, but at the same time, you got to look at it's accessible anywhere at any time to everybody. Maybe that seems a little low rent in some sense, but I actually think it's kind of rock and roll, which is exactly what Billy is. He's kind of always done things his way. As he says, he innovates in the space he's given. And I think that's the way to go. And right now, I'm just loving what we're doing at NWA. Now, whether that means that I stay there and make that place the best place it could possibly be, or somebody comes along with an offer, at the end of the day, I'm a businessman and I'm my own business. So anything's possible. It all depends on what's on the table. But at this point, my main focus is NWA because it's hot. It's the only different thing to me that I see going in wrestling today. Everything else kind of resembles each other, and we're the one thing that looks very incredibly different and feels different, and it's very character driven. That's what I like. I want to do character driven stuff. That's the whole reason I got in the business. So to me, it's NWA at this point.
So you just recently had a birthday on November 1st.
That's right.
Are you 37 or 38?
I just turned 37.
Okay, you got a lot of good years ahead of you. Barring any kind of crazy injury. When I walked away after WrestleMania 19 with The Rock, I pulled my own plug and said, "Hey man, it's time to get out," and a lot of neurological issues. But I'd been hot for a couple of years. You've got 16 years in. I had 13 years in, minus a C3-4 fusion, and when I walked away from the company. But to me, you've been primed up, or you are in your prime for several years now. Your work is outstanding in the ring, so anybody should come calling, or whether just you stay in NWA. But I feel like you should feel you're on top of everything, because I think it takes seasoning to become great or really proficient in this business, from a mechanical, psychological, and promo aspect.
Yeah, I think I've just put things in a different perspective, because when I went to WWE, I was 30 years old. I think it was probably a few months before my 31st birthday, and I remember feeling like I was an old guy because everybody was 22, 23, whatever. And I had remembered hearing about guys who were 33, 34 being told they were too old. And I was like, well, shit. I'm done. And I remember when they released me, they were saying, "We think you're really talented. We just need this stigma to go away from you, and we can bring you back in like a year or whatever once it's gone." And I'm thinking to myself, you guys aren't going to bring me back. I'm going to be goddamn 32 by that point in time. But lo and behold, true to their word, they came back to me the next year, the year after that, and year after that with offers. But at the same time, I also realize that things have progressed, whether it's human evolution or modern medicine or whatever it is. I think we're just aging a lot better. I mean, I don't know how it is with your parents or you or whatever, but when I look at my parents compared to my grandparents at their age, day and night, because my grandparents at my parents' current age looked so much older, acted so much older. My parents are super active. Even now, at 37, my parents looked so different. They look much older than I do now at 37. So I just think that we're aging better, whether it's medicine or whatever.
Yeah, but it's also, you get there and you're like, hey, man, this ain't that fucking old. And 37 is still young. But, yeah, to a point, at one point, in the wrestling business, 37 was considered old. But when you look at the bygone years, hell, man, sometimes half the best rosters guys were 35 look at Vern Gagne. I mean, guys, I don't know how long he wrestled, but guys like that wrestled into their late Flair.
Yeah.
And all times, I mean, he looked different, but Flair's Flair. To me, Flair's the GOAT. So my point is, you got a lot of good years ahead of you. You've got a lot of learnings. You got great psychology. You got really good in-ring stuff. So with the NWA, and tell Billy Corgan I said hi.
Absolutely.
He was into the podcast a long time ago, many years ago. And I remember him coming down to the Rosemount Horizon in Chicago. It's my favorite building to work. And I'd always sit over to the side and shoot the breeze with him. To figure that he'd always been in the business for quite some time now, but for him to go from Smashing Pumpkins into music of rock and roll, and he still does that, to be in the wrestling world is pretty cool. So send him my regards.
For sure. Have him in. He comes in here a bunch. He's in L.A. all the time.
I'll look into doing that. I want to plug your social media outlets, whether it's Twitter, Instagram. Where can people find? Is it Sean Ricker?
When I'm on TV and I'm doing my thing, it's Eli Drake. I mean, look. Okay, so here's my thing. Fans, Eli Drake, guys that I work with, Eli Drake, just to get in the habit. The girls call me Sean. That's always been my thing.
You popped me. Go ahead.
Regardless, the Eli Drake at Instagram and Twitter.
Tell me how Eli Drake came to be.
Well, actually, I don't know who came up with the name, but it was the first day I showed up to TNA under contract, and John Gabork was like, how do you feel about Eli Drake? And I said, well, I don't know.
Pretty fucking good.
Yeah, right? I mean, just, work me. At first, it was it's a weird sounding name, and they had me work under my real name at a Gut Check pay-per-view the month before.
Yeah.
But then they gave me that, and I was like, it feels a little weird, but fuck it, point me in a direction. I'm just happy to be here at this point. But then I was able to make it into a catchphrase and everything, so made it work so far.
Hey, would you come out with the all the calling people dummies stuff and all that shtick?
Man, I started doing that way back at Championship Wrestling Hollywood when I was still with Percy. I was watching old Bobby Heenan stuff, and I just thought it was funny when he called people dummies, or I listened to Howard Stern a bunch, and like Artie Lang would call people dummies and stuff like that. And so it was just like, nobody uses that word anymore.
They don't, because they want something that's a little bit harsher, but dummy is so apropos.
Right, and so being a heel, it's like I don't have to say anything like super cool. It's like I can say some shit that just kind of gets under your skin a little bit. So they came up with the idea to do this talk show with the button, and at first I was like, this is kind of campy. I don't like this. It's making a joke of the whole, all my catchphrases and everything. And then I was like, first time I got behind that podium, I was like, shit, this is actually kind of good. I dig this. I can just run with it. Because I remember actually that's a great example one day where they were like, all right, let's do a run through this. And I was just like, guys, I don't know what I'm going to say. So I'm just bullshitting the whole time. And then when I got out there, I said completely different stuff than, whatever I said in the run through. But yeah, it was just something that carried over. And the thing was just, I was at the Performance Center. And once I started getting over with people, one of the things I'd always say, I don't know why, I would just be walking around going, everybody. And people would start quoting me. People were quoting me all day long. When people would say that to me, I didn't want to say it back to them. So I'd go, yeah. And so we'd just be like, call and answer. And so when I got
Marco Polo, yeah,
right. So when I got to Impact, they were like, all right, well, we're going to do this thing. Let's go in the truck and we'll record the sounds for you, the dummy button. And I'm like, all right. And so I'm just in there like, dummy, yeah. And it was just completely it just came out. And they were like, that's the one. And I'm like, are you sure? They're like, no, that's the one. I'm like, all right, if you guys say so, fine. And then all of a sudden,
and
it just picked up.
sometimes you need that other person to say, dude, that's it. And because we as ourselves are like, really?
And I haven't done that segment. I barely even said dummy or any of that stuff for the last couple of years. But I'll have people come up to me, hey, can you call me a dummy? I'll have people chanting it in crowds, wherever I am, whatever. That was my best-selling shirt I ever had, was just the straight-up dummy button. So it was kind of just a happy accident.
Hey, but before we leave, and we've already plugged your Instagram, and it's Sean Ricker, but to the girls, it's Eli. It's Eli.
My closest friends actually call me Rick.
Would you call me a dummy?
Yeah. Yeah. By the way, I don't want to leave things out here. You got to catch NWA. Look, I can't plug my Instagram and not plug NWA. 6:05 Eastern Time. every Tuesday at youtube.com/NWA. Of course, you can buy my wonderful T-shirts at prowrestlingtees.com/Eli Drake if I can promote that. And I also do a podcast called The Wrestling Perspective with Dennis Farrell. And we're on that I think it comes out like every Wednesday or Thursday. And we haven't really nailed down a schedule yet. But yeah, so I think that's all my plugs.
Imperative question. Are you ever late to your own podcast?
Oh, hell yeah.
Well, yeah. Hey, so briefly, we're trying to go home, and I've been trying to go home for a long time. This is one of my habits. How long have you been doing the podcast?
Literally maybe 2 months.
What do you talk about?
A little bit. It's funny. We do kind of like my promos. Like, sometimes he'll be like, "Hey, we got this." I'm like, "Let's just save it for there. Let's save it for on there," and we'll go on with a particular agenda, and then we'll just go off and talk about anything. Because there have been times where it's been like, I don't know what we're going to talk about, but let's just turn it on and go.
Where do you find it at?
It's on basically anywhere. I listen to it on TuneIn.
Okay.
I'm going to start posting clips on YouTube. And I mean, basically anywhere you listen to podcasts, you can.
You got a YouTube channel?
Kinda. I mean, I have one, but there's barely a damn thing on it. So,
I was talking with my wife the other day, and I remembered that I started a YouTube channel in 2014 under the Broken Skull Ranch, and I'd just post some shit from my ranch in South Texas.
Right.
Basically, it's me trying to get my dog out of the backseat of my pickup truck. But I was like, shit, I just remembered, because I like to ride my side-by-sides and my four-wheelers when I go to Nevada, and like, God damn, I said, you need to start using that. You started it. You might as well start using it. So I'm going to start using that damn thing.
And I'm just so inconsistent because I'm like, what am I going to do? Yeah, because I'm like,
I got to be consistent with this, but with everything else, it's like, Because
I'm thinking I need a topic or I need some sort of angle or whatever. Instead, I should probably just turn the damn camera on and go for it. But
I think, that's what I'm going to do because I'm so random. It's like if I want to come up with something specific to talk about, it's like, but I'm all over the place,
Well, like, so the last video I put up was me making music. I made my own entrance music.
I read about that. You bought yourself a keyboard, a piano?
I bought a keyboard. I fired up GarageBand and just I was like, these are the notes. So didn't you used to come out to David Bowie fame for like a minute?
Yes, I did.
Okay, well, so did I. Yeah. Except I came out to a different remix of it. One that I kind of tooled up a little bit too. I sped up the tempo a little bit. But so I came out to, when I was with Percy all that time, I came out to a remix of David Bowie's fame. It was a live version. But I wanted something that sounded like that because the feel when I would come out to that music was just so right. And so I wanted something that had that vibe. And so I was like, well, they're not going to do it for me because literally I asked Impact. I was like, hey, I'd like to change my music. And they're like, okay, yeah. And so they changed it. And I was like, that just doesn't feel right. And so, like I said, I'm a do-it-yourself guy. If nobody else can do it, I'm going to do it myself. And so I sat down and just tried to figure it out, got some loops and put something together. And to me, it sounded pretty damn badass. Some people like it, some people don't. But at the end of the day, it's like it feels like the right sound to me. It feels like when I go out, I feel fucking amped up, and that's what I want to feel. When I don't want to go out there and it's just any old music's playing. I want something that like,
well, you got to feel
speaks to me. Yeah,
I think you have just inspired me, and my wife will be cursing your name later when I tell her. A lot of times when I record stuff, I'm out there in Nevada, I'm just holding my iPhone up. It's hard to drive, 60 miles an hour over a bunch of terrain, holding an iPhone, filming yourself or the terrain. So I've had so many GoPros in the past, but it's easy to film and post on an iPhone just because it's an iPhone. But when you download the stuff on GoPro, it's difficult to edit, or it's more difficult.
Sure.
It's extremely difficult for me because iPhone is so damn easy. So you've just inspired me just to say, hey, fuck it, go buy yourself another GoPro, learn how to edit or whatever, just do the basics and make my own content.
Well, actually, you don't even need to do that. You could use your phone and get a little tripod because I
have, but when you're at a high speed, it shakes so much.
That's true.
Yeah.
Okay, you're talking about being in the car.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, just sitting there, I can film myself. Last thing, going back to your talking about going down to fame, I'll never forget when I was in the Sportatorium. I'd already been in Tennessee, and I came up with everybody out there had ring music, and I was the J Brone in town. I was the green guy with long hair. I was pretty jacked up. Just got finished playing football at North Texas State. And everybody else had ring music. Of course, when you're green, you don't know no better, right? So then I bring my cassette. I recorded, Unchained by Van Halen. And I was like, man, I'm starving to death. I used to be jacked, but now I'm just eating potatoes.
Right.
My work is the shits. I'm nobody. I don't have a character. But if I can just have some fucking cool music to walk down the ring with, that make me feel a lot better. I handed this guy this cassette to the guy. I said, hey, man, he was like second, third generation guy there. Tennessee was tough. And I said, hey, man, could you play this for my entrance music? And he looked at me and he goes, boy, people down here, when you work down here, if you don't know how to work, if you ain't been in the business a long time, you're asking me a lot to play this damn music. He said it in more words that were much more succinct and, kind of degrading. And I said, man, would you just please play the tape? And so I had to cool music. And so when I made my return to Dallas as a heel, I was a babyface back in. As a heel, that's when I came up with the fame thing. But walking down to the Dallas Sportatorium, to that ring, and that popcorn smell, hot dog, stale piss and beer smell, and just cigarettes. It was fucking wrestling personified.
Yes.
And it just made me feel like the coolest, meanest, baddest motherfucker that there was.
Yes.
So you got to have good music.
Hell, and I'm a perfectionist, and I've gotten some people annoyed at me because I'll change the music just a little bit. I might take the tempo up, or I'll cut a part out and be like, this is too long a build at the beginning. I want it to hit immediately and go out. Like that was like your music or Rock's music, where it's like, if you smell, and it's like something hard hits right immediately and it picks up. I want that, because now you know who's coming out. There's no build up. You're not wondering. So that's why the first thing in my music, you hear my voice. So it's like Eli Drake. And now I feel like you're going to get a better pop if it goes from quiet to boom, here's this music blasting out. You hear my voice first and foremost. And it's just little things like that where it's like, let me precondition the audience to where they're already up before I even hit the curtain. Now I'm coming out, more pop. So the music is so important. But then again, NWA doesn't have music, and that seemed really, really fucking daunting, I'll be honest, because when they said no music, we all started looking at each other like, what the hell are we doing?
Well, because you've been trained to go out with music and anticipate music. When we used to go out and do Saturday morning TV in Memphis, that was the same thing. You're walking out there, man, studio, and depending on where you are on the over or not scale. When I walked out there wasn't a whole lot of anything. And that, boy, all of a sudden, that insecurity hits you, and you're like, you kind of just fucked up anything that I might or will say.
Yeah, but fortunately, at that Atlanta studio, man, they were fucking hot, so it didn't even matter. It was like they became our music.
Yeah, but you know what? They bought in.
Right.
And they're there because they're passionate about the business and the product that you're putting out.
And I know they paid a pretty penny for those tickets. So, but when I walked out there the first time, I was like, did we pay them? Like, these motherfuckers are hot.
Yeah.
It was really strange, and I don't know if it was just because the product's so different or what it was, but they were clamoring for what they were seeing.
Back in the day when we were doing TV tapings at Center Stage, they had some really good-looking women there that they'd actually pay the women to go be, part of the crowd.
Oh, really?
So it looked like there's a bunch of hot chicks at the wrestling show.
No shit.
Yeah. I mean, that was word on the street. Anyway, that's a whole other story for a whole other ballgame. Hey, man, you live in L.A., come back down here to 316 Gimmick Street is the official name of the street that I live on.
All right, don't just tell me that on the podcast. That better be for real.
To the Broken Skull Studios, you've got my address in your phone. Come back anytime you want, and we can talk about your podcast some more.
Hell yeah. Appreciate
it. Good luck with the NWA. Wish you all the best of luck. It is good for me to see so many different brands of wrestling and see so many guys and girls making a living inside the squared circle. When, we put WCW out of business, they disappeared. There's no competition. Competition makes everybody better. And
absolutely. All
the different styles and different presentations is very refreshing for a guy like me and like yourself that loves the business so much.
Well, before we go anywhere, I just want to tell you this is an amazing honor, huge, huge honor. So thank you so much. I do appreciate you having me so much.
And that's the bottom line, because Eli Drake said so.
Yeah.
Goodbye. All right, everybody, give me the go-home cue. It's time to wrap up this podcast and ride off in the sunset. Before I do that, actually, I'm not riding off in the sunset. I'm fixing to gas up my buggy and hit the mountains. I'd like to thank my guest, Eli Drake, for coming out of Hollywood, come down to Marina Del Rey and chop it up and shoot the breeze about the business of pro wrestling. One of my favorite things to talk about. And I'm fixing to go back to breaking down a few matches here on the show. If there's any matches that you would like to hear me break down, send them to questions@steveaustonshow.com. One of the ones I'm just going to break down is obviously the one from 1977 Harley Race versus Terry Funk at the Sam Houston Coliseum in a 2 out of 3 falls match. Just an outstanding match. So I'm looking for stuff that is not so much current, not any of my matches particularly, but some of your favorite matches, and that's what I want to do. So send me a match to questions@steveaustonshow.com that you might want me and a guest to talk about. Don't forget to rate and review Steve Austin Show on Apple Podcasts. Tell friends to check us out. Again, I've told you how to reach me here on the podcast, questions@steveaustonshow.com. I want to thank everybody on the East Coast for being so welcoming to Broken Skull IPA and all of the other flavors from El Segundo Brewing Company. We've arrived down there a month or two ago. Lots of positive feedback. It's selling out like crazy. So thank you very much to everybody on the East Coast that has traveled to get to it or has enjoyed it. If you go to the El Segundo Brewing Company website, you can go to the interactive map, and it will tell you the location nearest you that sells it. We also just got another batch up to Oregon. We're coming out to the East Coast again, Massachusetts, Jersey, and New York area with more beer, and we're trying to get to 6 to 8 states starting in 2020. So it's a work in progress, and we're growing this thing out and trying to do the best we can. So thanks for all the positive feedback about the beer. I love the beer. It was made by me with Rob Croxall to my taste buds. So when I say it's the best IPA in America, I'm shooting with you. In my opinion, it is. Drink whatever you want to drink. Hopefully you'll enjoy my beer as well as what you normally drink. But give it a sample. I think you'll dig it. King of Attitude shirts. More are coming. I'm fixing to pick 5 more designs. My Broken Skull Ranch stuff is still up. I'm fixing to add more designs to that over at ProWrestlingTees.com. Got some pocket knives, Cold Steel, Working Man knife, and the Broken Skull knife. Amazon.com/shop/Steve Austin. I'd like to say one more thank you to all the fine sponsors of the Steve Austin Show, especially Zoro.com, Geico, and BetOnline.ag. That's how I'm able to do this podcast for you twice a week for free. Please support them because they support us. And if you need more info on my sponsors, check out the show description to this episode for details. Folks, coming up on the next episode, I'm talking to Hall of Fame UFC fighter, former light heavyweight champion, Tito Ortiz. We're going to talk about life. We're talking about fighting. We're talking about professional wrestling. And we're going to be promoting and talking specifically about his December 7th fight down there in Hidalgo, Texas, against former WWE superstar Alberto Del Rio. So that is going to be a really interesting fight. Tito has had a hell of a career lasting over 22 years. So it's an interesting conversation, and it's interesting to hear Tito's thoughts on many things because, man, this guy is much more than just some UFC fighter that goes out there and punches people and takes them down. Really smart dude, very insightful. And the dude had a rough upbringing, to say the least. So enjoy my conversation with Tito Ortiz coming next episode. Folks, I'm about to jump on my Kawasaki and hit the trails. Until next time, my name is Steve Austin, and I will catch your ass down the road.
This has been a Podcast One production. Download new episodes of The Steve Austin Show every Tuesday at PodcastOne.com. That's PodcastOne.com.